Good evening, and welcome to the first Cleveland Cavaliers game preview of the 2016 season, as tonight at Quicken Loans Arena, your Cleveland Cavaliers welcome the Boston Celtics to town. For the first time since 2000, the Cavs are off to a 4-0 start as they look to defend their NBA championship that they won last season, coming back from a 3-1 deficit against the Golden State Warriors, who had set the regular season record for the most wins in NBA history with 73. Game 7 is a moment I will never forget, as many Clevelanders. The block, the shot, the D, it was amazing. Speaking of 3-1, that is Boston's record as they come into the game tonight, thanks to a 107-100 victory last night in Boston against the Chicago Bulls at the TD Garden. Isaiah Thomas and Amir Johnson led the way for the Celtics, as they each scored 23 points. Meanwhile, the Cavaliers will look to start the season 5-0 for the first time since 76-77, when they started the season 8-0. On Tuesday, Cleveland barely got by Houston with an 8-point victory, 128-120 at the Q. Kyrie Irving led the way for the Cavs with 32 points, and LeBron added 19. Do those names sound familiar? Of course they do. Kyrie hit the game-winning 3 in Game 7, and LeBron had the legendary block. That's all. Nothing that special, right? Yeah, not that special. Tonight at the Q, the Cavs and Celtics will meet in the first of a 4-game season series. Last season, the Cavs won the season series against Boston 2-1. And in the 2015 playoffs, Cleveland swept Boston. But in 2010, in the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, the Celtics were able to eliminate the Cavs on their route, and then the Celtics would go on to face the Lakers in the 2010 NBA Finals, where they lost to the Lakers in Game 7. But back in 2008, the Cavaliers and Celtics again met in the Eastern Conference semifinals, where the Celtics once again prevailed, this time in Game 7 in a terrific battle between Paul Pierce and LeBron James. The Celtics would end up winning Game 7 and then would go on to win the NBA Finals against the Los Angeles Lakers. Boston always seems to play Cleveland very tough. Last season, Boston beat Cleveland in Cleveland on a buzzer beater by Avery Bradley. I don't expect that to change tonight, the intensity level of tonight's game. Both teams improved this season as they both made roster moves. Starting with Cleveland, the most important move that they made was that they re-signed J.R. Smith. Why is that the most important move? Because if you remember, in the 2015 Eastern Conference Finals against Atlanta, J.R. Smith was draining three-pointers left and right. What does three-point shooting do to a defense? It draws the defense out, which opens up driving lanes for guys like Kyrie Irving and LeBron James. So that's very huge. Cleveland also signed Mike Dunleavy, who is a decent shooter and pretty good defender. And they also signed Birdman, Chris Anderson, who's not the greatest offensive player, but he's decent guarding the rim. They also got Kay Felder from Atlanta in a draft day trade. Felder played amazing at the University of Oakland, so let's hope that carries over to his rookie season as a Cavalier. The Celtics also made moves in the offseason. Most importantly, they signed Al Horford. What this gives Boston is a center who can do three things. First, he can play with his back to the basket, which is something that Boston hasn't really had since Perkins and Garnett. But Horford brings another dimension to the table for the Celtics, and that's that he can step out and make the 15-foot mid-range shot. But even more importantly for Boston, he can shoot the three. It's not that often that you're going to find a center who can shoot the three. A power forward who is really well known for it is Dirk Nowitzki. But again, he's a power forward. So Al Horford is not your typical center. Along with signing Al Horford, Boston also drafted Jaylen Brown with the third pick in this year's draft. Brown had a terrific college career at Cal, and the Celtics are hoping that his game translates to the NBA this season and beyond. The key matchup tonight between the Cavaliers and the Celtics will be at the point guard spot between Cleveland's Kyrie Irving and the Celtics' Isaiah Thomas. Irving is averaging about 27 points per game and around 4 assists per game this season coming into tonight's game. Isaiah Thomas, meanwhile, is averaging around 24 points per game and 7.5 assists per game. However, as a basketball fan, I think Isaiah Thomas fits at the shooting guard position because of how well he can shoot the ball, and plus he is great at driving the lane and making tough layups. But I understand why the Celtics have him at the point guard. Another key matchup in tonight's game will be at the center position between Tristan Thompson and Al Horford. As I already said, Horford can play with his back to the basket, or he can make the mid-range shot or shoot the three. He's not your typical center. An example of a typical center would be a guy like Marc Gasol, who plays for the Memphis Grizzlies. He tends to play with his back to the basket and really post guys up and try and dominate in the paint. Tristan Thompson kind of plays like that, where he plays with his back to the basket, but he's not always going to score a lot. But he gets the rebounds. But does he get upset that he doesn't score a lot? No. He even said during the post-game interview of Game 7, he embraces his role. As I said, this will be the first of a 4-game season series between the Cavaliers and Celtics. The second time that these two teams play each other will be on December 29th, also at the Q. The third time will be in Boston at the TD Garden on March 1st. The final time will also be in Boston on April 5th, where these two teams will probably be jockeying for playoff position. Along with the guys I mentioned, there are other matchups to watch in tonight's game. For example, whose bench will come out better? Boston has Jaylen Brown coming off the bench, Marcus Smart, Tyler Zeller, Kelly Olynyk. These are all guys that can provide the Celtics with a spark of energy and get them going. Cleveland, on the other hand, has Iman Shumpert, Richard Jefferson, Channing Frye, Mike Dunleavy, and Chris Anderson, as well as James Jones. These guys will serve the same role. So, it's going to be a matter of whose bench will perform better. Brad Stevens, the head coach of the Celtics, used to coach at Butler. He took the Butler Bulldogs to the March Madness final twice. The first time was the game where Butler almost beat Duke if Gordon Hayward had made the half-court shot. And the second time, Butler just got destroyed against UConn. But since he has come into the league and become the Celtics head coach, the Celtics have become a very dangerous team. And I don't expect that to be any different this season. As I said, they're 3-1. That's not a bad record. They will probably be fighting with teams like Toronto, Indiana, for that second playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. It is going to be a fantastic game tonight. And the guy leading the Cavs tonight is Ty Lue, who went through a wild ride last season. Because at the start of the last season, he wasn't even the Cavaliers head coach. David Blatt was. But even after going 30-11, the Cavaliers let him go after the Warriors absolutely handed the Cavaliers their butts on MLK Day. And as soon as David Blatt got fired, Tyronn Lue was hired. And he changed the Cavaliers' offense. He got Kevin Love involved more. Gave the Cavs more opportunities to drive and find the open shooter. It's been absolutely fantastic what's happened to the Cavs over the past couple seasons. Some guys say that they can stop LeBron, such as Jay Crowder, who is the Celtics' starting small forward. But the only guy in the league who can really not shut down LeBron, but slow him down, is the starting small forward for the San Antonio Spurs, Kawhi Leonard, who is probably the best defender in the NBA right now. But Crowder seems to be a defensive pest on LeBron. But LeBron is the best player in the NBA right now. So, I do expect him to get the better of Crowder tonight. But it should be a fantastic matchup between those two. Overall, I expect this to be a fantastic matchup. The past couple of games have gone down to the wire. Most notably last season, when Avery Bradley hit a shot at the buzzer to beat Cleveland in Cleveland. As I said, the games between these two teams are very competitive. We'll see what happens tonight. and I will see you next time.